Hey, so you're probably here because you're thinking about moving abroad, and I have a question for you. If you were to leave today, would you be ready to just, as you are, go? Or would you still need to unpack some Karen energy? This video is in no way, shape, or form to pass judgment because at one point I had Karen energy and I've lived abroad for about 12 years. It took me a little bit to understand the ways that I was culturally insensitive and centered my USA mentality. And so this is more of a video to just bring awareness to the unconscious bias when it comes to our own culture in relation to other cultures. What is Karen energy? Karen energy is gender neutral. It's not about being entitled. It's having lack of cultural awareness. It's centering your own beliefs and expecting the world to conform to you. So one thing that often happens when people want to move abroad or they go abroad in the beginning is that they have the Dunning-Kruger effect. And the Dunning-Kruger effect is basically you feel overly confident because you don't know what you don't know. What's an example of that? You might go abroad and think, I am so open-minded, I'm so open to different cultures, and you get there and you start navigating the world like that, but your understanding of the newer culture around you is so nuanced and so surface level, you don't maybe realize that the way that you move around the world, the way that you consider yourself open-minded, it could make you seem like a Karen. And unfortunately, people from the US, because of the way that we're used to customer service and even the tip culture, we bring that Karen energy. I'll give you an example. I thought I was so open-minded. I moved to Colombia and Ecuador. I learned Spanish and went to Spain. I just knew that I was so inclusive and open. Until one day, a bowl of chicken feet landed in front of me. And instead of appreciating it and thinking, wow, this is so great, let me try it, I othered it because I said, oh, what is this on my plate? Nowadays, I will F up some chicken feet because it's really good collagen, FYI. But back then, I didn't realize that the way that I acted, my over-exaggerated reaction to some chicken feet was offensive. This especially happens with people from the US when it comes to customer service because we believe that the customer is always right. But let me tell you, in other countries, especially when they don't have to sing and dance for tips, they don't believe that. Their whole thing is, we have a service, you have money, we both need each other, and I'm not going to sing and tap dance for a tip. When we don't get our way, we end up imposing our own lens on the culture around us, and it really leaves a bad impression. It's another example of the Dunning-Kruger effect. You show up thinking you're open-minded, and then you hit an impasse, you hit a block with the culture, and suddenly that is tested. One thing that I also experienced thinking that I knew better and I was open-minded, and just because I spent a couple of years abroad, was how I could still be culturally insensitive. Now, what's an example of this? You'll hear if you're in Latin America, you're called an American, people will be like, we're Americans too. And at first I was like, who cares? North America, South America. If I call you Chilean, Argentinian, and people call me American, who cares? I didn't realize how culturally insensitive that was and how that was minimizing other people's identity, even a form of erasure. But it took me having conversations with other people to understand, okay, my bad, I get it. It's more than just the name. It's more than just being called American. It's so much bigger than that. And so it's moments like that when you think, oh, my intention is good, but the impact is actually bad, and you don't really realize from where you're standing or sitting in the US right now. It'll take you some tries of being culturally insensitive to really get it. We're not going to get it right the first time. Nobody is. So then it leads you to think about all your unconscious bias. What are your thoughts about the USA? Yes, maybe you think the USA is crappy, but when somebody starts talking crap about Americans, are you going to get defensive? Are you going to try to defend? Are you going to try to say, not all Americans? That is something that you'll have to unpack. That is going to lead to an understanding of what your unconscious biases are. Another thing, the US has a really special construct around race. You talk to other people and they're like, why is race so important to people from the States? Well, it's our history. The way that we even dealt with race is different from other countries who are homogenous or who decided to incentivize people to breed blackness out. And so for that reason, when we come down to South America, we have to realize that they look at race differently. They don't look at half, quarter, one drop. It's completely different. And realizing that every culture operates in their own construct, it will allow you to get that Karen energy out of you. When I reflect on my time abroad, things really changed when I said, you know what, if I can't beat them, I gotta join them. For example, when I was in Colombia, they have a different relationship to time than we do in the US. So after so many times of being mad because somebody would show up an hour late to something they needed to show, on time for, not even 15 minutes late, I said, okay, I can't beat him, so I'm gonna join him. You're never gonna beat that culture game. Never, 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 never. To be honest though, when I look back, I cringe sometimes at how I reacted because things weren't my way. Things weren't the USA way. And I would say that robbed me of some probably beautiful cultural moments, new experiences, some growth, but it's not going to be perfect the first time. It's going to take some time. You're going to have to just work on it and just remember you are there to mold yourself to the environment and not the other way around. So what I want you to take away from this is to remember. So the takeaway from this is that when you're thinking about moving abroad, you have to think about or ask yourself, am I ready to adapt? Am I ready to unlearn? Am I ready to open up? Am I ready to receive? And go with it with that intention. If you're not, then you might have to do some work to de-Karenify yourself. Most people can't go to a place and just immediately hit the ground running and not have certain biases to undo. It's almost impossible. I would say cultural humility is absolutely the best way to overcome these obstacles and to make the most of your time abroad. Now, if you have a question about where you are on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being okay and 10 being a super Karen, the next video we're actually going to take a quiz to see how entitled are you, or how much of a Karen you have inside of you. How many things do you have to unlearn? And you might be surprised that it's more than you thought, or maybe you are doing better than you thought right now. But I think if you're actually asking the question, am I ready to move abroad? Am I culturally humble? Will I bring my baggage to another country? You're already moving in the right direction. So if you want to take the quiz to see, how much of a Karen that you might be, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and be prepared for the next video. See you next time. Bye.